Live yet? I think we are live. All right. Hey, welcome to the live stream. We are live. It says so right up there. Hi, how are you? Jack from Gately Academy once again. I got some questions. Got some questions here from Leticia, one of my students. And she has a couple of questions before she prepares for the exam. And let's just take them right in order. So once again, Jack from Gately Academy and the Online Real Estate Academy. Nice to see you. Starting off with Leticia's questions, can a facilitator suggest a buyer how much to offer for a house? Absolutely, Leticia. A facilitator technically is a non-agent, which means they do not represent the buyer or the seller. They don't represent either. They're just there, according to the regulations, to assist. And technically, since they're just there to assist, of course, they can suggest to the buyer how much to offer, or even suggest to the seller how much to list their property for, since they technically do not work for either side or any party in the transaction. Remember, of course, in Massachusetts, that the facilitator role includes a specific and explicit waiver of client confidentiality. Ooh, that sounds like a good test question. So don't forget that on the Massachusetts portion of the exam. Next question. The day before closing, the buyer noticed that the seller did not leave appliances in the house that should have been there. Well, should this ever develop as a problem, and it would usually develop during the walkthrough. So as many of you know, prior to the actual closing on the transaction, you usually go through a walkthrough. Traditionally in our area here, that's like the morning of. So if you're going to have your closing at 10 a.m., your walkthrough highly likely would be like maybe at 9. It's also possible it could be the day before, somewhere prior to the actual closing. So if you go to that walkthrough and the appliances are not there, the first thing you should do is mention that to your agent. And your agent should then get out the purchase and sale agreement, And right at the top of the purchase and sale agreement, they'll be reminded that that document serves as the full and complete agreement between the parties. In other words, there can't be any side deals, and especially if there's any verbal side deals. Verbal deals are unenforceable. So first you've got to check the actual document. You actually got to pull that out of the file somewhere, and it's not a bad thing as a agent to actually bring that with you on the day of closing in a file folder and a printed version on the day of closing. Probably the only day you actually need a printed copy of it. And look into the purchase and sale. See what it says. You know, you might have thought it said all the appliances, including the washer and dryer and all, but maybe it doesn't. So first consult that. Let's assume that it does include all the appliances, but they're actually not there. Uh-oh. Well, the first thing you want to do is talk to the list agent. And I really believe, as a list agent representing the seller, that you should go to the walkthrough. Because if there's ever an issue, at least you are there to be able to answer any issue. Now, this type of issue would be hard for the list agent to spontaneously resolve. It's not like it's a missing key to the backdoor slider and it's just, hung inside the cabinet and, oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you the key is in the cabinet for the slider. It's not a small trivial issue. This is a big issue. And then highly likely you're going to tell the list agent of the problem. I would strongly recommend you document this with either a video and or photos. And then I would go to the closing, which highly likely is going to be like in an hour from now or something, as we talked about. At the closing, the first thing before you sign anything, you want to bring this issue up to the closing attorney. So here in Massachusetts, every real estate conveyance is consummated by an attorney. You're going to bring it up right off the bat. And from a practical point of view, if the seller took something that they shouldn't have, highly likely this is going to result in what we would call an adjustment and or a holdback. So you should give the seller the opportunity to fix the problem. Maybe they have the appliances on a truck and they could easily bring it back. I don't know. But you should at least give the seller the opportunity to resolve the issue. And if they're not able to resolve the issue, then you should obviously pay less for the property. I would actually hold back some portion of money until they've actually resolved the issue. This would be called a holdback. I would do that with a written agreement between buyer and seller, and make sure that the attorney is involved with that agreement. You should draft that at the closing table. Hopefully that doesn't happen, but sometimes things do happen. Next one is what if the interest rate looks different than what was explained? Ooh, a really good one. So this law has to do with TRID, the Truth in Lending RESPA Integrated Disclosure Act, which was put into effect by the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the CFPB, in October of 2015. And so as a borrower, under the 3-day rule, you're supposed to get the final cost of your loan, usually nowadays by email, 3 days before you close. So if you close like on a Wednesday, I believe that means that actually you have to get those costs by Saturday, if I'm not mistaken. Including in those costs would be like your interest rate. So if you were quoted according to your loan estimate, you want to go back and find the official loan estimate. If you were quoted 5% in your loan estimate, and all of a sudden the mortgage comes in at 8.5%, whoa, that's a big difference. Or even if it's any difference, then you have a situation where TRID is the governing statute. That's a federal statute. You'd first, as always, want to bring this up with your mortgage person at your mortgage company. If you can get a hold of them over the weekend or first thing the next business day, you do have a couple of days to kind of fix this and or put a halt to the transaction. So I would immediately get on the phone with them and or email, probably both, just so that you can document the process and say, hey, the loan documents came in at the wrong interest rate. I will tell you that as a general rule of thumb, they are really loath to violate TRID, and the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is a zealous, in my opinion at least, enforcer of the rules. So you want to bring this to their attention as soon as possible. I think it's probably going to be resolved in your favor. Could it result in a delay of the closing? Highly likely, actually, because probably the lender will need to issue a new closing disclosure, which trigger a new 3-day rule, and as a result, delay your closing. But much better to have delayed closing than paying a crazy interest rate that you were not quoted. Technically, when can the buyer back out of the deal? Well, really up until the last second, except for the fact that you might lose your deposit if all of your contingencies have expired, or as we say here in Boston, expired. Who checks the broker transaction? Well, that would be here in Massachusetts, the closing attorney. The closing attorney who, if it doesn't work for the buyer, the closing attorney works for the lender. And they're going to double check all the paperwork. They are going to be the one that actually closes the transaction here in Massachusetts. Who monitors all the agency paperwork? Leticia, your last question. Love that one. Technically, the broker of record at the agency is responsible for all of the agency's paperwork. They will be required to keep that paperwork for up to 3 years. 3 years. Sounds like another really good test question, actually. And of course, that agency, Acme Real Estate Agency, whatever it is, it has a license from the state, and that state license is overseen by the Board of Registration of Brokers and real estate brokers and salespersons. And so should there be some cause to investigate the agency, the Board of Registration can investigate. Usually they do that on a consumer complaint, but they are allowed to do it at their own initiative as well. Hey, I think that answers all of your questions. Go get them. Good luck with the exam, Leticia. Have a great day. Bye-bye.